Welcome everyone to the June 2025 regular Board of Directors meeting with the Santa Cruz Metropolitan Transit District. We'll begin with our safety briefing from Gregory Strecker, Safety, Security, and Risk Management Director.
Thank you. Just want to let everyone know, in the event of an evacuation, obviously this new building for everyone here, well, not for everyone, of course. There are three main evacuation routes, two directly behind the board of directors. Both of those doors lead directly outside, and everyone would want to meet directly in the parking lot right in front of the building. The third evacuation route is directly behind the audience, the two main doors. You would go through the main doors, go to the left and directly outside, and you would meet again in the parking lot directly outside of the building. Is there anyone here who is CPR certified? If you don't mind raising your hand. Thank you. Thank you for that note. There is an AED that is available just on the right side wall in the middle of the room. In the event there's a medical emergency, and there are instructions directly above the AED on how to use that properly. And just want to remind everyone the policies in relation to what happens in the event of an active shooter that could potentially happen. The first thing is make sure you run, otherwise evacuate, get out of the room as quickly as possible and away from the active shooter. Second, if you can't run, hide. And if you can't hide, fight. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Thank you. We will now conduct the roll call. Director Downing? Here. Director Dutra?
Here.
Director Kalantari Johnson? Director Koenig?
Here.
Director Leonore?
Here.
Director Lind?
Here.
Director Newsom? Director Orbach? Director Key Rose Carter. Haven't seen her come online yet. Ex officio Director Northcutt and ex officio Director Riskin. And I forgot to mention that Director Martinez is absent today. And we do have quorum. So community television will be broadcasting today's meeting, and it will be available on their YouTube channel next week. Maria Avila is providing the Spanish interpretation services today. Have you arrived yet? She has. Okay. Moving to item 5. Are there any comments this morning from our board members? I have one. I invite fellow board members and staff to march in the 4th of July parade in Aptos next weekend. In addition to promoting Metro in our community with one of our Cruz vehicles, we will also promote a week without driving with the county. That'll be happening later this year, so contact me if you're interested. Item 6 is set aside for directors and members of the general public to address any item not on the agenda, which is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. No action or discussion shall be taken on any items presented, except that any director may respond to statements made or questions asked, or may ask questions for clarification, and all matters of an administrative nature will be referred to our staff. Each public comment is limited to 3 minutes or less. We ask you to speak so we can all hear you and invite you to step to the podium now if you have a comment. Do we have any online? Brett? Brett, can you hear us?
Now I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good
Speak up.
morning. I
Can
am
you
Brett
speak up,
Garrett from
please?
Santa Cruz. The recent train study from the RTC shows that a train will cost us $4.2 billion. That's more than $16,000 for each man, woman, and child in the county. It's just too expensive and also too limited, since the railroad tracks don't reach our primary employment centers. It's time to think seriously about transportation alternatives that can provide more benefits at a much lower cost than a train. I want to talk briefly in support of personal rapid transit as a possible solution for many of the transportation challenges in Santa Cruz County. Personal rapid transit, or PRT, consists of small electric pod cars operating in a network of dedicated guideways. These guideways can be elevated, completely separate from automobile and pedestrian traffic, improving safety and allowing the pod cars to take passengers directly from start to destination without stopping. The system is automated and efficient. It can run 24 hours a day, providing on-demand service with low fares and little or no waiting. It's very inexpensive to build, inexpensive to operate. Personal rapid transit is an excellent solution for Watsonville to Santa Cruz. It's an excellent solution for UCSC. It's an excellent solution for SoCal Drive. It's an excellent solution for our county. The goal is not to replace Metro. My hope is that Metro will be involved in planning and operating a PRT system while also continuing to run buses. The buses and the PRT can work together to provide better transportation and serve more passengers than we can do with the buses alone. And it can continue to employ the same staff without loss of jobs. PRT is becoming more viable with each passing month. There are some new PRT companies that look very interesting. I've been really intrigued by Whoosh. It's a very low-cost system that looks like a cable car, but it's actually a full-fledged PRT with all of the benefits of PRT. There's also line mobility, a higher speed system. I've met the head of operations. He lives in Santa Cruz. So anyway, please take some time to learn more. There's a website at santacruzprt.org. And yeah, please continue. I appreciate what you do, and please consider some alternative transportation that could be really good for our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. We're going to return to Maria Avila, who is providing Spanish interpretive services today. Could you introduce yourself?
Good morning, my name is Maria. I'm from Language Line. I'm here for Spanish interpretation services. Mi nombre es María y estoy aquí para los servicios de intérprete en español.
Do we have any comments from our labor organizations?
We do have one more person online.
Oh, they are. Go ahead.
Tim, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello?
Could you speak up a little bit?
Hi, can you hear me?
Um,
Can you hear
barely.
me now?
Okay,
I'll
go
take
ahead.
that as a yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm calling regarding Route 79. 2 years ago, you guys used to run the buses going to different direction on Tuttle and Bridge Street, which is a one of 3 senior developments in the area. And a couple of years ago, you changed the direction of the buses, which I could care less about, but you also increased the frequency, which was completely unnecessary because your average ridership was 2 people per bus. And I think that included the driver. I'm not anti-Metro at all. I think you guys do some good work, but you also do some stuff that doesn't make sense, like running 26 buses a day through a senior village that don't utilize your services. You admitted your one of 3 former directors in the last 5 years admitted that the ridership was only 2.3 persons per bus through a senior village that doesn't utilize your services. We have 70-year-old homes. I have a 10-foot crack that I'm going to send you a picture of because your buses shake the living, you know what, out of our old homes here. We don't use your services. You need to slow down when you go through our neighborhood, and you are literally destroying my house. And I have the documented evidence to prove it. Now, some of your drivers have been very good and slowed down, which I really appreciate. Your older propane gas buses, or natural gas, I should say, are loud and they shake the whole house. I could be laying in my bed and I can see the window at 6:05 a.m. shaking, and sure enough, I'll check my ring cam and there's one of your buses speeding by. So you admit that your ridership has increased 50%. Yeah, it increased from 2.3 to 3.3. That's your 50% increase. So why don't you use some common sense and either use smaller buses like Monterey does, or reroute this route so that Route 79 doesn't go down Tuttle Avenue, that doesn't use your services. There's only one bus stop. You could resolve this by going down McKenzie. You're tearing my house apart literally. And I'd like someone to contact me before I contact an attorney. My next step is I'm going to go door to door, especially down Bronte Avenue, which is a very narrow street. And I'm going to get a signed petition of as many signatures as I can get. And I'm going to present that at the next board meeting.
Thank you for your comment.
What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to stop the traffic, the unwanted traffic? I'm also starting
Your
a website
comment is done,
called
so we're
Stop
going to
Metro
thank you for
Unwanted
your
Traffic,
comment
otherwise
and go ahead
known
and
as
mute him.
SMUT appropriately.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. I just want to make sure our labor organization communications, do you have any today? Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to the consent agenda, where all items are recommended actions that are considered to be routine and will be acted upon as one motion. Do we have any comments from the board regarding this, or any requests to pull an item for discussion? None. We now ask for public comments. Do we have any public comments on the consent agenda? Any online?
There are none.
Thank you. A motion is required to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
And we do not have Vanessa yet,
We do not have Vanessa online at this time,
so
so,
we can do a,
excuse me, but can you repeat who did the first? Shebra and Mon. Okay, thank you.
so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And the motion passes. Thank you. We'll begin our regular agenda with the presentation of our Employee Longevity Awards. We have several today, very exciting. Araceli Campos, Transit Supervisor, 10 years of service. Juan Castillo, Transit Supervisor, 10 years of service. Francisca Fernandez, Bus Operator, 10 years of service. Juan Garcia, Bus Operator, 10 years of service. Linnea Hightower, Transit Supervisor, 10 years of service, and Amy Lona, Bus Operator, 10 years of service. We thank you for your years of service and ask if there are any public comments at this time. Okay. We continue our regular agenda with item 11, to approve a resolution of appreciation for the service of Mike Rotkin as a member of the Metro Board of Directors. Some of our board members who served with Mike will join me in its reading. So whereas the Santa Cruz Metropolitan Transit District Metro was formed to provide public transportation to all of the residents of Santa Cruz County, and whereas Santa Cruz County, requiring strong public representation, appointed Mike Rotkin as a member of the Board of Directors of Metro. And whereas Mike Rotkin served multiple terms in the capacity as an ex officio director and board director from April 1979 through May of 2025. And whereas Mike Rotkin provided Metro with strong leadership and insightful guidance during his term in office. And whereas during the time that Mike Rotkin served on the Metro Board of Directors and the Santa Cruz Civic Improvement Corporation Board, some highlights of his accomplishments were:
Buses were retrofitted with passenger lifts. A telecommunications system was established. Authorized funding for SoCal Park and Ride Lot, lift line, and community bridges were engaged with paratransit services until such services were brought in-house. He implemented the implementation of the beach shuttle program in Santa Cruz and Capitola, participated in Metro's bus rodeos, development of the Metro Transit Center and Watsonville Maintenance and Operations Facility, construction of the Metro Maintenance Facility in Santa Cruz, improvements to Felton Fair Transit Center, procurement of 16-bit microcomputers for run cutting, scheduling, and vehicle blocking, installation of emergency generators, contracted with UC Santa Cruz and Cabrillo College on student fares, established an advertising policy for buses and bus stops and shelters, implemented bus stop improvements, turnouts, shelters, signage, etc., supported the fixed guideway measure on 1984 ballot, contracted for security services, developed a transfer policy with Monterey Salinas Transit, supported call boxes on Highway 17, transitioned maintenance employees from City of Santa Cruz to within the district, emphasized the safety of bus operators and passengers, considered the consolidation of district facilities, implemented the ticket and billing project, developed an aggregate billing system for fare boxes, created bus services on Highway 17, and
I got it. Thank you. And of course, I just lost my spot. Where's it? Oh, there you go. Thanks. Revised paint schemes of buses, discussed the environmental impacts of buses, provided bilingual information at bus stops and in the Headways passenger guide, supported a bus replacement plan, constructed a fueling station, established the Metro Advisory Committee, MAC, sponsored Leadership Santa Cruz, worked to support positive labor relations, provided Wi-Fi on Highway 17 buses, created in-house district council, added front-mounted bike racks to buses, approved construction of the Scotts Valley and Watsonville transfer centers, discussed reconstruction of earthquake-damaged facilities and the demolition of the Watsonville Maintenance and Operations Facility, approved Santa Claus riding on bus routes during the holidays. I thought that was a typo. Coordinated bus layover service at the Greyhound Terminal, contracted with San Jose State University for bus service, established service to the Santa Cruz County Fair, authorized an employee incentive program, adopted Metro's drug and alcohol policy, authorized the use of lobbyists to represent Metro's interest at the state and federal levels, and established a smoking policy at bus stops and transit centers.
All right, take a breath, there's more. This incredible man did a lot for our community. Approved purchases of clean diesel, compressed natural gas, and zero-emission battery electric and hydrogen electric buses. Approved annual senior dinners within Metro's community, participated in First Night Santa Cruz, established Metro's records retention schedule, implemented holiday shopper shuttles, incorporated changes to Metro's conflict of interest code, implemented an adopt a bus stop bench shelter program, broke ground for the Judy K. Souza operations facility component of the Metro-based project, supported renovations to the Watsonville Transit Center and Pacific Station, increased ridership, responded to a structural deficit, restructured fares, performed a comprehensive operational analysis, supported Measure D, rebranded bus stops, approved bus on shoulder and rapid bus transit initiatives, supported ADA compliance at Metro facilities, supported Senate Bill 1 to increase public transit funding in California, procured onboard bus security surveillance equipment, implemented an articulated bus pilot project with UCSC.
Also established a passenger code of conduct and service suspension exclusion policies for fixed route paratransit and transit facilities, supported the Unified Corridor Investment Study, revised board member bylaws, supported a long-range bus replacement plan, addressed impacts of COVID-19 pandemic, performed an on-demand microtransit pilot program, supported the pension obligation bond to refinance CalPERS UAL, joined the Pajaro Regional Flood Management Agency benefit assessment for levee operations and maintenance, implemented an enterprise resource planning program, adopted a social equity and community funding policy, created the reimagined Metro bus network, adopted the Youth Ride Free program, adopted CUPCA, California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act ordinance for efficient implementation of public works projects, and supported the redevelopment of Pacific Station and the Watsonville Transit Center.
And whereas the quality of public transit service in Santa Cruz County was improved dramatically as a result of the dedication, commitment, and efforts of Mike Rotkin. And whereas Mike Rotkin completed his long tenure as a member of the Board of Directors in May 2025. Now therefore be it resolved that the Metro Board of Directors does hereby commend Mike Rotkin for his efforts in the advancement of public transportation service in Santa Cruz County and expresses appreciation for such efforts on behalf of itself, the Metro staff, and all of the residents of Santa Cruz County. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be presented to the family of Mike Rotkin, and a copy of this resolution be entered into the official records of Metro as a lasting tribute to his extraordinary service and legacy. Do we have any comments or questions from the board? Shepard.
I think it's all said in this resolution, but I do want to just take a moment and acknowledge all that he did to help me personally as I first came on as a council member and as I first came on as a Metro commissioner. I was way in over my head. I didn't know what from what, and he never declined my requests to meet. We had many meetings in my shed, and I just really appreciate all that he did for me and all that he did for Metro and all that he did for all of our communities across Santa Cruz County.
And as Shepard said, this resolution really did cover a great deal of what he did, but he's also done so much and given so much in the city for the city of Santa Cruz through his service on city council, but is just being so committed to our community, involved in so many ways, supporting several different nonprofits, working with his party, and just giving. And like Shebra, he was always someone that offered his support, made himself available, helped train us as we came aboard, and even during meetings sometimes reminded us of procedures, and just always made me smile. So just joining everyone and appreciating and sharing this with the family.
Do we have any other board comments? Fabian.
So when I first walked into those front doors at the Metro Center for my first board meeting, he was the first one that actually welcomed me. We were talking on the elevator, and I can tell that he was by the second meeting, he was honest, he was respectful, he had the respect of the community, and he likes to get in trouble, good trouble. And I like that, because he speaks out. He speaks his mind, and I respect that from him. So I knew him just a short time, but it felt like I knew him for a long time. That's it.
Linda.
I also met with Mike Rotkin a few times during my campaign. And as a new person in politics, I really needed the guidance. And I sought him out to chat. And he was so gracious with his time and his wisdom, and just never doubted my ability, even though I questioned my own ability to step up and do this work. And I'm sad that I didn't get more time with him because there's so much that I can learn from him, and am just continue to be impressed with all that he's done. And I want to acknowledge his grace and civility and just his decades and decades of progressive advocacy. I hope we can continue to do the good work that he has shown.
I just want to say that I felt like I learned so much from Mike. Mike and I were often on the opposing sides of issues, and yet nevertheless, he was extremely gracious with both of his time, and I thought, and we met a good number of times and had really productive conversations. And so I think he was a model for how to reach across the aisle, for lack of a better term, and work collaboratively, and really always had in mind to what's best for the entire community and how we can operate together in community even when we disagree. And definitely learned a lot from Metro specifically about him, as we can learn from this resolution. He pretty much saw us through all the major changes in the last 30 years. So I'm really going to miss you, Mike.
And just want to say Mike meant a lot to our community, and he had a great impact on our community and obviously on the Metro. He was a great role model for what a public servant should be and what a role model should be. And he had a positive impact on a lot of people throughout our community, which to me is one of a sign of a great, well-led life, and he'll be deeply missed.
Just want to echo, Mike was also, for me, someone who welcomed me to Santa Cruz and to the Metro Board. Obviously, his accomplishments are just mind-bogglingly long and deep. And though I didn't ever interact with him as part of the UC Santa Cruz community, he was obviously an integral part of that UC Santa Cruz community for decades, and I think really embodied and manifested the spirit of UC Santa Cruz, particularly the public service aspect of his mission. So I know from the campus perspective, along with everyone else, he will be deeply missed, and we're extremely grateful for having had him as a part of our community and for all he did.
Thank you. I first met Mike in 2019. I was inviting all of the regional transportation commissioners to participate in a pedestrian safety walk audit between Seacliff and Aptos Village. And Mike was the only one that did it. He walked the walk. He went to our supervisor's house in Seacliff and walked to Aptos Village, which if any of you try to do that, it's very exciting. And that always just sort of stuck with me, that he is that guy. And he was very welcoming when I joined the board and participated with him and Larry on some subcommittees together. And he was just always very gracious, but never shy with sharing how he felt about things. And I will miss him making the motions, seconding the motions, and being our institutional knowledge on this board. 46 years. Very long time. Quite an accomplishment. We'd now like to ask if there are any public comments on this resolution. Thank you, and please speak up so we can all hear you.
Hello, hello. Mic is working. Hi, Ben Finca, bus operator, St. Cruz Metro. And I did not know Mike very well or very long, but I could as you have all reflected, tell that he was very honest and very willing to help and communicate and make sure that people knew where he was coming from. And that's about it, but I just wanted to request, and I'm sure we're all amenable to a moment of silence.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments? And online?
I saw that Vanessa joined us briefly, but I haven't seen her come back on. Oh, there she is.
So no public comment online?
No. I'll see if I can promote.
So a motion is required.
I'd move approval of resolution.
Second.
Yes.
So. So we can take Vanessa's back on, so we'll take a roll call vote.
Director Downing,
Aye.
Director Dutra,
Aye.
Director Colin Johnson, Director Koenig, Director Leonore,
Aye.
Director Lind,
Aye.
Director Newsom,
Aye.
Director Orbach, Director Kiros Carter,
Aye.
and the motion passes.
Thank you. We will now hear the Metro Advisory Committee semi-annual oral update from Veronica Elsie. And staff. There we go. There we go. Good girl. Good girl, Lacey.
All right, let me just find the mic. Good morning, CEO Aldridge, members of the Board of Directors, staff, and members of the public. I'm Veronica Elsie, currently serving as chair of the Metro Advisory Committee. And before I get into the meat of my report, I would just like to join others in thanking Mike Rotkin for his service. He was truly a transit champion and frankly, quite a hero to its riders. And obviously I want to specifically thank him for creating this committee because we've been able to assist Metro a lot, be a voice for the public, and I hope we can continue that. So we thank you, Mike. We offer our sincere condolences to his family, friends, loved ones, and colleagues. Rest in peace, Mike. We're all going to miss you. So now on to our semi-annual report. As I said, I'm Veronica Elsie, currently acting chair. We have Joey Martinez as our vice chair, and our other members are James Cruz, James Von Hendy, Becky Taylor, Jessica DeWitt, and Michael Pisano. Our attendance has continued to be excellent. We have members that are very engaged, making a lot of contact with members of the public, as well as your board, and we look forward to continuing in that vein. I also would like to thank staff, CEO Aldridge, and particularly Rebecca Downing for paying visits to our meetings and participating. It really means a lot, and we think it's been really helpful. Some of the main issues that we have been addressing and will continue to address with all of you, one of them involving bus stops. We've been talking for a little while about putting Braille signs at the bus stops so we can identify which routes stop there. And we've decided, working with John Ergo, that it was best to wait until Pacific Station North was completed and the routes kind of shook out a little bit and settled down before we asked Metro to spend money on signs that might have to be changed. So that will eventually come back to you. As we also continue to discuss the various transit centers, what the issues are at the temporary Riverfront Center, how things are going with the construction at North Pacific and Watsonville. One of the things that we kind of champion that we're happy to see kind of implement is better restroom facilities for the bus operators. We really appreciate what you bus operators do, and we want you to be comfortable. We're still hearing some complaints from some of the members of the public about smoking at some of the centers. And we also do want to acknowledge the increase in the presence of security, particularly at the Riverfront Center. People have told us that it helps to have someone to ask for help. I've personally made use of it when I was chasing down a bus, especially on Area 1. Where are you? But those are really the main things that we've been hearing. One of the big issues that came before not only this committee, but also the RTC's Elderly and Disabled Transportation Advisory Committee was a discussion about Cruz eligibility forms. And I believe this did come up at one of your previous board meetings, that even though apparently the switch to going back to using ADA rides for doing the eligibility happened a little while ago, it apparently caught many riders by surprise because there were not email notifications because ADA rides didn't have people's email addresses yet. And so people are still finding the forms burdensome, complicated, and in some cases unable to complete. So we have had a very excellent presentations from ADA rides, both at our February MAC meeting and at a special March END-TAC meeting. We hope to continue this discussion so that ultimately we can do what Metro wants, which is to make this service available to people who really need it, but also not make it such a heavy burden for people who do need it. So that will be an ongoing issue. We're also now beginning to talk about updating of your website and the new app, the Transit Royale. We are hoping that those are accessible to everyone, and there is some public testing that is going on. One of the things that some of the members of public are continually asking for, which we don't have yet, is there a way to know whether buses have reached their capacity for carrying passengers with wheelchairs, so that they don't end up standing forever and then the bus comes by and they can't get on. So that's just something to take a look at in future contracts and things like that. One of the other big issues which is beginning to surface, and this we're discussing here and in END-TAC, which is when future construction happens, the notion of putting bus stops on islands. The idea being that the bus doesn't have to pull out of traffic and then back in, but for some of your passengers, this is going to be a real problem because some of us will not know that there is a bus stop on an island. Some of us will not know where that island is. Some of us will not know when to cross, where to cross, and we're crossing bike lanes, and there are some safety concerns. So we are trying to do some research and see what other transit agencies across the country are doing. A lot of the bigger cities can put them at intersections. So if you have an accessible signal at an intersection, it will say Van Ness Crossing Clay and 49 northbound bus stop. But here, where they're going to be in the middle of the blocks, it could be kind of problematic. So I want to call this to the board's attention. Please pay attention because this is potentially a passenger safety issue. And then finally, one of the things that we have expressed concern is that the position has not yet been filled for, I don't know what you're going to call it now, but it's the ADA coordinator. Used to be called mobility training coordinator. But what we are hoping is that someone can fill that position. It's been open for quite a long time now, and look at all things accessibility, whether it's the app, the website, handing out what's called Stoke straps to help connect someone's wheelchair to the bus when they ride, and various other things that a person in this position can do. So please consider this position as important as it really is and make sure that it is filled. I would like to encourage any of you to attend our next meeting, which will be Wednesday, August 20th at 6 p.m. And that will be held at, oh shoot, I get on a bus and they take me there. And, but we really appreciate the opportunity to help make Metro better and really encourage you to please, again, as I will always remind you, we are an advisory body. We are here for you. We are here to undertake tasks for you and with you. Please utilize us. We are offering our services to Metro and all of its riders. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Do any of our board members have questions for Veronica? I dare you.
Thing that Veronica spoke to, the ADA coordinator. I'm wondering if the appropriate staff could respond to that, why it's been vacant for some time and what our plan is to fill that position.
Michael, can you come to the microphone? Thank you.
Hi, Michael Boyce, Communications Manager. So we had the individual leave that position at the end of last year. We're working on some minor updates to the job description, which is with our HR department. We're finalizing that, and then we hope to actually start recruiting in July to get that filled.
And what is the anticipated timeline for that process of recruitment to hire? I know that's, sometimes hard to.
With this position, it may take a little bit longer just because of the type of individual and experience we're looking for, but I'm not sure how long it'll last. A 30-day recruitment would be our first standard.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Fabian.
Yes. Thank you, Veronica, for your presentation. I work with the disabled community in Watsonville, and I know that it's been tough for the application or the submission of applications to get Cruz rides, in downtown Watsonville or even into Santa Cruz. And it's been difficult for us because I actually go through the process too with my clients, and I know what you guys are going through. So I think that Metro needs to make it a little bit easier for us to be able to support our clients with the application process. And the mobility aid should be the person that's actually working with those clients and helping them go through the process of applying for Cruz. I know that some of our clients have been moving on to other services like Liftline, mobility aid, because they're having a tough time filing that application. So they just go ahead and they get discouraged and they move away from Cruz and they find other services in the community. The brailles, yes, the signs on the bus stops, definitely that is a very good idea because I find people that are visually impaired relying on people that are sitting around and asking for, what bus route is stopping here. So definitely that would be something that all of us, you and I, maybe I'll come to one of your meetings and we can talk and discuss what we can do more to be able to install brailles at all bus stops from South County all the way to North County. But thank you for your presentation.
Do we have any other comments? Yes, Melinda.
Thanks for your presentation, Veronica. I've also been at that River Street Transit Center waiting for my number 2 bus to go home, and have seen in multiple occasions seniors and walkers who were not able to board the bus that they were waiting for because there's only 1 slot or 2 slots for their assistive devices. So that is a problem. which I know has to do with our bus designs, and we don't have a lot of flexibility there. But in terms of our vision moving forward, to have more flexibility in the bus designs or the seatings where it can go up so we can accommodate more of our different needs passengers, that would be great. And I had a conversation with one of our bus operators, Ben, who, when I was telling him this story, he said during one of his routes, when he saw that happen, he called for backup and he called for paratransit to come and help that individual. And I thought that was very kind and really taking that as extra step and going above and beyond. So I wanted to call that out. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public? Any online?
None online.
Well, thank you, Veronica, and all the members of the committee for your work. I see how challenging it is sometimes for you to just reach the Metro meeting, to have your time together, and I just want to let you know how much we appreciate your efforts.
Well, thank you. We very much appreciate the opportunity to serve. And as I said, I repeat my welcome to our meetings, and I will offer the second semi-annual presentation to all of you in December. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, the Board of Directors will conduct a public hearing regarding two matters. First, to receive public comments on the status of agency vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts as required by Assembly Bill 2561. And second, to receive public comments on final adoption of the fiscal year 26 and 27 operating budgets and the fiscal year 26 capital budget portfolio. I will now proceed to open the public hearing. Has adequate prior public notice been given? It has. Thank you. We will begin with the status of agency vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts. We will invite members of the public to make their comments after staff presents a brief report and after the employee organizations have had an opportunity to speak. And now we'll hear from Dawn. Thank you.
Good morning, Dawn Cremay, Chief HR Officer for Santa Cruz Metro. So last month, I reported on new AB 2561, which requires public agencies to monitor vacancy rates and present information on the status of job vacancies, as well as recruitment and retention efforts. And this is to maintain sufficient staffing and provide reliable and efficient services to the public. I'm happy to report that we are still under the 20% threshold for vacancies. Of those vacancies that we have, we do have several of those that are out for recruitment now. So they still have to count as a vacancy because we don't have somebody sitting in that seat, but probably within the next 30 to 60 days, a lot of those will be filled. We're not running into any issues right now with recruitment, other than our mechanic position. Sometimes that's a little challenging because of the skill set that's required for it. And because of that, we are still offering the hire-on bonus for that position as well as the referral bonus. Other than that, we are not running into any other challenges. And do you have any questions? Okay, thank you.
We now invite presentations from any of our employee organizations that wish to provide comments or input. I understand that the representative from the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers was invited to speak but declined. I will invite any representatives from the Service Employees International Union to speak. Thank you. Are there any written comments or requests to speak from members of the public? No. Thank you. Corey, do you have anything you wish to add?
No, not really. We are continuing to try to recruit for all the positions that we do have available. We're trying to really focus in on making sure that the positions that we have funded are the positions that we plan to fill. And you'll see that on this year's budget that you'll hear about in a minute.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, we will now move on to receive comments regarding final adoption of the fiscal year 26 and 27 operating budgets and fiscal year 26 capital budget portfolio. We will invite members of the public to make their comments after the staff presentation from Chuck Marmer.
Give Donna a second. Oh, yeah, man, there we go. We're done. Well, while she's still loading it, I might as well just go ahead and start. So we have, over the last 4 months now, have kind of walked through the whole evolution of this budget for 26 and 27. The focus today is not necessarily going through that whole big process again, but really what has changed from what we presented last month to the final budget that we're presenting today, because we made some other changes too as well. And I'll wait for Donna for a second. All right. Let's just go ahead and move to slide 4. All right, we're done. All right, well, while she's going through it, I'm going to go ahead and start. And it's actually slide 4 I'll start at. So this is it's this slide, so once she fixes it, you'll be able to see the numbers. Right now, from our FY25 budget to 26 budget, our revenues are slightly up by 1.2 million or 12.8%. Our operating surplus, I'll say deficit in this case, actually does go up by 1.6, about 2.7%. And our bottom line numbers, we go from about $2.9 million surplus to about a $4 million deficit. And I'm going to go through this and kind of give you a little bit better explanation going forward. Now I'm going to jump forward for those who can actually see. Okay, so I'm on slide 6. So slide 5, I'm going to skip. Slide 5 is the actual bridge of everything that we've done over the course of the last 4 months. So I'm not going to walk through each of those different lines. Like I said, I'm going to focus more on what I presented last month to what I'm going to present now. So doing a comparison of the budget that was presented at the beginning of the public comment period till now, we've adjusted the budget favorably by $3.6 million. So in that $3.6 million, and if we want to move to the next slide after that, which is slide 7, we've gone back and looked at our ridership and really reevaluated bottoms up what our ridership truly should be. That actually brought us down about another $166,000. However, we've been able to close or almost finalize the UC Santa Cruz contract, as well as the biggest piece is we're using LC Top to help fund the youth free ridership, and that actually added another $384,000, which is good. One of the things I'll walk through here in a minute, we were able to reduce 22 and a half full-time equivalents out of our budget since over the last 30 days. And that savings is about $2.4 million. We reevaluated workers' comp. We've actually have a huge amount of workers' comp in this fiscal year, and we based it off that, going back and reevaluating. We had a lot of one-time occurrences. So we removed those. That's about $1 million savings. We also looked at the Watsonville lot. There's some savings there of about $117,000. And then there's some settlement costs that went up, and that ultimately was about $191,000 higher. So net, right now, we went from 7.6 down to $4 million loss. Okay. Moving to the next slide, which is a little bit more of a visual view of it. This is the bridge across. We started on our operating deficit at about 60.1. Our operating revenue is up about $1.2 million, and our wages, because we did some retooling of our wages, which I'll go through. Like I said, headcount is really the driving factor of this, is about 600,000. And then what's offsetting that is we have revenue vehicle repair parts of about 1.2. A lot of that is the hydrogen buses coming in. We had property and insurance that went up about 700,000. The line of credit, one-time cost, 1.1 million. And our strategic services for marketing, so like I said, this is sales tax. This is one-time events too as well, is about another $1 million. And then the rest is about 600,000 favorable. We're at 61.7. It's a $1.6 million increase, but when you kind of pull out those one-time costs that are just gonna happen, which is like the line of credit and strategic marketing, we're actually favorable by about $500,000, which is actually good. Moving to the next slide, 25 to 26. So this is our operating revenue and expense. So right now we're talking about $63 million is sitting in our budget. This is our non-operating revenue and expense. Our sales tax and Measure D is down 1.3. As I mentioned before, we're going 4% down year over year. We don't know exactly where we're gonna fall at, but we're taking kind of the conservative approach that we're already seeing our sales tax coming in lower than what it was last year. So we're keeping that same kind of trend going forward. Cross our fingers it goes up, but right now it's 4% down. Our federal grants right now are down $2.6 million, primarily driven by TDA and SDA. And then, of course, we have retiree obligations and our bond, as well as some other revenue that's all slightly down. So we're going from 63 to 57. So that's a $5.3 million decrease year over year. So our other sources of kind of like revenue and so forth are going down. Let's go to slide 10. So on slide 10, this is just kind of a visual of where all our money is coming from. Sales tax and Measure D makes up about 39% of our money for our budget. Our fares and our special transit contracts make about 12.5% of the total. Go to the next slide. TURSIP is covering about 11.6. So this is to keep our buses, this additional service going forward. And then TDA is about 11.8. I'm not gonna go through each of these, but you can see what they are. And then moving on to slide 11, what we do is we do a lot of transfers. This is basically what we do at the end of the day. Starting with the top line, that's our operating surplus or deficit. We end up transferring, technically, we're transferring $3 million into our bus and bus replacement fund. This is the $3 million we talk about. About 2.5 of that actually comes from our P&L. The rest of it goes straight to the bus fund from the grant. And then our CalPERS UAL liability, this is to replenish our bus fund, or technically it's our pension and our retiree health fund. $2 million in 25. That gets our bucket to 10 million. And I'm going to go through the buckets in a minute. And then 0 because we're already fully funded. Our fuel tax credit has faded away. I know there's a fight to get it back, but right now we had 146,000 this year, and that's it. If we get it, then that credit will go up, or in that case, it'll actually hit 26. And then our reserve replenishments come in at about 849. So all in all, right now, our operating surplus deficit right now, we go from about 6.9 to 8.4, and we're moving money from our COVID recovery fund over to cover the gap to make it to 0. And I'll go through the buckets and explain kind of a little bit more in detail on that in a minute. We move on to the next slide. So there's a listing of all our headcount. I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm going to go to the next slide.
I'm sorry. On our end, I'm not sure if in person people are able to see the slides, but on Zoom we're not able to see the slides.
Oh.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's good to know.
If you can look at the agenda online, right now the screen sharing isn't working.
Great, thank you.
All right, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm going to go to slide 13. So on slide 13, we are going from a budget account of 443 full-time equivalents down to 412.5 full-time equivalents. Since then, like I said, we came down 22.5 headcount. We've pulled out of the system or changed. Big drivers here is we've actually gone back and we need to reduce our bus drivers from 230 to 220. Nobody leaves. That's about where we're at today right now. So we're going to hold at that. We feel like that's the service we need is 220. So that's 10 headcount. They reevaluated the transit supervisors, and right now we pulled out 8 headcount. That was initially in the budget. So now we're down 8, and they can operate with all the transit supervisors that are currently employed right now in our operations department. So that's 18 of the 22. We defunded a few positions. That includes 2 that were in finance that we really didn't fill. We just had them in there. So now we've pulled them out of the budget. So that's not there. And then what we did was we put back a half a person. We've hired now a new assistant director of procurement. And the person who is initially in that position, she's moved to Texas, but she's willing to help train. So she's only here for half a year. So that's why you have half a person. And ultimately, like I said, we brought that down 22.5 since our May board meeting. And then moving on to slide 15. Go one more slide after that. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 16. Yeah. So as part of it, as 26, we have to show kind of similar to 27. In 27, we go from about a $4 million loss to only 2.4 million. As, like I said, the one-time costs start to disappear, that would be like the $1 million for the line of credit. And we're still going to continue, at least for half a year, some of the marketing activities associated around the strategic marketing, i.e. sales tax. But that starts to go away, and that's primarily a lot of the drop at this point, that we're actually going from 4 million down to $2.4 million. That's really kind of the key aspect of it. And I'm not going to go through the operating budget risks. Went through that already, but I am going to go to probably the one people like to talk about, slide 21. So let's talk about these buckets. The first slide you see in the buckets, this is what we are estimating the buckets to be as of Monday. So there are going to be slight changes in here, but for the most part, this is our projection. The top buckets right now are going to be fully funded. This includes our workers' compensation reserve fund, liability insurance, our operations sustainability reserve fund, and our cash flow reserve fund. So these are now fully funded. If you want me to stop, I can explain each bucket, but for right now, this is what it is. The bottom buckets, which is a little bit more variable, our bus replacement fund, that is 8.8. That's the $3 million that I talked about earlier that we replenish every year. Our operating capital reserve fund of $14.9 million. So that's money, Measure D money coming in. Our COVID recovery bucket, so this is money that we have put in this bucket as we went through COVID that we knew we would use once kind of COVID was over to help keep us sustained and moving forward as an agency. And then the last is the UAL OPEB, that's the $10 million. We funded $2 million to finish up the bucket, now $10 million located in. So if I go to the next slide, where do we see ourselves 12 months from now? So all the buckets at the very top are the 2.6, the million, 21.6, and 3 have all just been replenished. So not a whole lot of change there, but for the most part, they are kind of what they are. What did change down below is our bus replacement fund is now 6.3 million. And like I said, put $3 million in, but we're buying buses, we're using the money, so there's a lot of cash flow issues in and out. So we're at 6.3. Our operating capital reserve fund is now at 5.4. And our COVID recovery fund, which we talked about, we used some of that money, is now at 19.6. And our UAL and OPEB is at $10 million. And just to kind of give you an idea of, let me grab it here. Hang on. This is the first time I'm showing, I'm going to go a little bit of detail.
Can you explain what some of those costs are going to be over the next year that bring down those buckets?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do right now because I haven't talked about it, but good call. All right, so in the bus replacement fund, we started out at 8.8 is what we projected last year to be. What we've done is we've gone in and we've had cash inflows of the $3 million coming into that bucket, so it increases. But then we're buying these hydrogen buses. So we've already programmed money against these buses of about $4.6 million. Plus, we've also used another $1 million to buy other things other than buses. This would be like a hydrogen facility, the temporary fueler, and so forth. So ultimately what that does with those puts and takes coming in, it ends up being 6.3. So that's the ins and outs of the bus replacement fund. The operating and capital and reserve fund, that started out at 14.9. We've added in we've added in another $1 million from Measure D that came into it. And then what's going out is another $10.5 million. And all of that money is being used for our hydrogen fueler, as well as our other capital projects that are non-bus related. And like I said, the biggest piece right there is our temporary fuel, or our permanent fueler that we're going to be using. And I'll go through the capital pieces, here in a minute, but that's the piece that's going out, and that results in about a $9.5 million reduction down to about 5.4. And then our COVID bucket, where we're starting at $28 million, we have $3.6 million that is actually moving out of the COVID bucket to help fund some of the pieces and the $1 million that's in our operating capital fund, as well as our transfer to our bus replacement fund. And then also our cash outflows, we have $850,000 that's coming out to replenish those top 4 buckets, because like I said, they adjust accordingly a little bit. And another $4 million to cover our operating loss before transfers. That's about 8.4, I'm sorry, that's 8.4 million dollar reduction, and ultimately going from the 28.1 down to the 19.6. That's a lot of numbers.
Can I ask you a question since you're
Absolutely.
on this slide? What the operating and capital, I mean, that's a big drop. And how much are the hydrogen, what you said it's very expensive. So what is that going to cost?
The hydrogen,
Or the fueling?
oh, the fueling's going to be a lot. So that is one of the biggest things that's going to be driving year-over-year increases in our operating costs is going to be the fuel. And it's really, in 26, we are going to be testing our buses through 26, but we won't have the full rollout in 26, or at least maybe just in the very end. It's in 27, the fueling goes up. And it's probably going to be in the neighborhood of doubling our fuel costs in total.
So as we're getting greener, it's more expensive.
Way more expensive.
Way more expensive. Okay, this is interesting. Can you give me a number?
I expect that our overall fuel cost all in that we're sitting right now is just over $2 million. And I expect that number to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 6 million when we're fully rolled out.
That's like 2 times.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And it will be increasing year after year after year, do you believe?
It depends. I mean, our best bet is the fact that the cost of hydrogen is going to start coming down. And if hydrogen comes down from where it's sitting right now, which is basically 11 and a quarter cents, $11.25 per kilogram, if we can get that number down to 4, then we're almost even par. But right now, if it stays at that same level and continues at that same level, then yes.
I mean, I think that's a real big problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see us getting very, I mean, you see how big of a deficit or a drop we have over just 1 year. The next year, it seems like we're going to be at 0 or, so I think we have to figure out, we got to figure something out. Yeah. Because we're not going to have any money to pay for it.
Chuck, I have a question. You talked about the fuel tax and that's in limbo, right? We don't know if we have that.
Yeah, we don't know yet.
So how is that affecting our fueling costs? Are they?
No, that's separate. That's a fuel rebate we give basically on our CNG fuel that comes in every year. It's just it's sunsetted in December of this past year.
Okay.
As we replace our buses, have we considered smaller buses which would require less fuel, especially in some of the areas that don't need that large capacity? I mean, just thinking ahead in terms of that being an option of saving money for fuel.
The challenge with that, there's a few things that are a challenge with it. One, there's really not a smaller vehicle out there that can meet the demands of what we need. They're testing, there's paratransit or smaller cutaway vehicles that the top end range on electric right now is about 100 miles. So we need well over that on any of our routes. We've tested a battery electric one that is being built in Turkey that we'd hope that maybe could be some sort of a solution. It still has range issues and has some other build issues on it. You're welcome to come look at it. We've had a test one here for months and they haven't come to pick it up on it. The other challenge is flexibility of buses within our routes. So if a small bus is down, if a big bus is down, we can't take a small bus and run that at UCSC, for instance. So flexibility is really important. The biggest cost up until the cost of hydrogen fuel has really been the labor. That's been the big driving factor on that. It's not the bus itself. So as we move into this new technology with these new hydrogen buses and the fuel costs are up, and that is definitely a concern for sure. Smaller buses aren't necessarily going to get us a lot more fuel economy than you would with a larger bus.
I had a question about the fueling again. Down in, I believe it's Riverside County, where they're using hydrogen buses currently. Is that correct? There's a system down there. I think AC Transit uses some too. Has there been any discussions with them about how their fueling costs are and if they're anything encouraging or information that would help us?
Yeah, I mean, we're still in its infancy, and We've heard pricing for different agencies are paying anywhere from, I've heard as low as 8, high as 15. So we're kind of right in the middle of that right now. But until more adopt it and we get more hydrogen into the market, that's when they say that the prices will begin to drop.
Is there any information you can share with, especially our new board members, about some of the things that we had explored with, what's their name? They're in the group that would do the consortium with the fueling. Is there any?
Arches?
Yeah, Arches. Thank you.
Nothing really new, other than they are still moving forward, but a lot of uncertainty.
All right. I'm going to move on and listen to any more questions about this. Okay. All right, let's move on to slide. I'm just going to go straight to 26. One more. All right, so our FY 25 to 26, not a whole lot has changed since May. We did some little bit of true ups, primarily focused around timing of receiving and accepting our hydrogen buses. In fact, actually, we're going to change this later on too as well, because we're going to accept at least one this week, maybe 2. But we put this together a few weeks ago and we weren't quite sure how many we had. So we're kind of a little bit overstated in 25 and understated in 26. But outside of that, one of the things we talked about was we're spending a lot of our money in our capital projects. Under construction related, we have 21.8 million that's sitting in our budget. If you look down our temporary hydrogen fueling station right now, some of that's going to move over into 26. That is then again some of our money that's going to be spent to help finalize the temporary fueler that we have in our lot right now. A hydrogen fueling station, the permanent one of the 11.8, we're going to be using some of our money there too as well. A lot of this is matching, but it's money that's coming out of that $10.5 million that I talked about before. And then of course, as we kind of move down is our 44 buses, that's 24.2 million. Right now, it looks like we're going to have 23 buses that are sitting in our budget for sitting in our 25, but we're only going to look like we're going to have 20. So it looks like 3 buses are going to pop over to the next year. But the total's still the same for the whole portfolio. And then our 60 hydrogen fuel cell buses, another $17.6 million. So those are the big numbers that are really driving the 26. And then if you flip to the next slide, down at the very bottom, we're expected to spend about 39 million. We're going to come in under, because like I said, there's going to be some shifting. And our FY26 budget right now is about just under $68 million. That's going to probably shift a little bit higher as we shift the money over. But our portfolio in total is still going to be about $123 million that we'll have approved with grants that are in place and part of our funding to help fund that to move forward. And that's our capital budget. Going to the next slide. The funding sources to cover all of this, 35% is TERSIP. So this is driven because they're paying for the buses, they're paying for the temporary fueler. So that's a big portion of it is the 35%. The VW grant, that's 16%. So of course, that's part of our buses that we get at, later on. FTA is covering about 16%. And then the big number right there is our operating capital reserve of 17% that we're actually using our money to help cover that, our matching portion of all this. And that's it.
Do we have any questions from our board members? Jimmy?
Thanks. I just want to be very clear about my concern. I think that, this year we're going to be getting by, but I have concerns for our future budgets. And, we live in a time where funding is, being cut from the top and, we don't know where we're gonna land over the next 3 years with getting funding from there. And I think if we, I know there's a hope from some people that we're gonna be going to do a sales tax, but you can't count on that. And then especially seeing, our fuel, not that we could have anticipated it was gonna go from, or maybe we could have, I'm not sure, from 2 million to 6 million. But how do you see we're gonna be able to manage this in the future, in the next budget or the budget after?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot sits around that sales tax. The way we are right now, we're doing Metro Reimagine, we're running all this extra service, all these extra buses. One of the things is, if we do get the sales tax, then we're gonna be sitting good for a while. What the result is, if we don't get the sales tax, then, Reimagine Metro goes away and other things will happen too as well. And we'll have to make a plan around it. The goal here is I wasn't going to go into details about this, but Corey and I are working together to, over the next couple of months, we'll come back to the board and kind of show with the sales tax and without a sales tax. And, yes, everything's getting more expensive, however you look at it. I mean, forget people-wise, with raises, but just in general, parts are more expensive that are coming in, fuel, changing over to zero emissions. Even charging is getting more expensive. So everything's going up in price. And you're right, our revenue sources, we don't know what it's going to be next year. It could be non-existent. It could change. It could cut in half. We don't know, but we'll make our best estimate as what we think it's going to be based off of all the knowledge and understanding of what's coming down from the federal level and the state level of what our funding will be. And as part of that, we're going to say, this is what we can and can't do.
What, I guess I have two questions. What is the cost of like running an electric bus versus a hydrogen fueled bus? Is the electric a lot cheaper? Because I feel like I've been on this board for a decade, and the conversations back then was, let's go electric, electric, electric. And then all of a sudden it switched and we bought a ton of hydrogen buses. We went all in on hydrogen. So I'm curious to would it have been cheaper to, run the local routes on electric buses?
I think it's more of a dynamic difference in the buses because our buses can run all day. They come back, they fuel, and they keep on going throughout the whole thing. With buses that are electric, you got one shift, they come back, they got to charge. And we're charging, if we do charge, we're charging at probably the most expensive time of the day to recharge it to get it back out on service. That cost to do all of that is not as high as hydrogen, but it's more expensive than our diesel and CNG. So it falls somewhere in between. The real issue is it's a time dynamic because it takes, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours or something to charge these buses. So it's out of service. So you almost need more buses in order to run an electric fleet. So by diversifying to hydrogen and electric, you're able to actually then keep the buses going throughout service all day at zero emission.
I wish personally the transition would have been slower. I mean, I did not make that decision, and I don't even know if Corey made that decision, but I think it probably was the person before you. But that to me was not a good decision. I mean, because now we're in a situation that we could be in a lot of trouble. And I've been reading online, you already have people talking against the tax. And so we're going in a time we're entering into a time where people are holding onto their money. We're seeing sales tax drop in every jurisdiction. City of Watsonville, our sales tax went down as well. People aren't spending. So I really worry about, going out and to try to convince people to tax themselves next year during a time that they're already saving. So I'm sure you'll put a plan together and we'll address it and we'll talk about it. But if I were you guys, I would be thinking about other options besides putting all my eggs in a sales tax basket. So, thank you.
Yeah, I guess I would echo some of what Director Dutra said, and I think just the continuing multi-million-dollar gaps, which look like they would be getting bigger, is obviously unsustainable. I think doing analysis of with and without the sales tax, since that's what the hopes are hanging on, but it has a high level of uncertainty, is a good idea. It may make sense to do some longer forecasting, like 5-year forecasts, because although it gets harder to forecast revenues and expenses as you go further out, I think given a lot of the uncertainty would help the board and the public to have maybe a longer runway to look at in terms of what different scenarios might be. I did have just a specific question on the proposed budget. In May, there was one of the kind of significant changes was, in this regards, the number of bus operators was reducing by 20, or unfunding, I guess, by 20 operators in the next year because the buses aren't going to be ready, and then restoring the 20 in the following year. Now we have, it sounded like of the 22 and a half new net unfunded positions, there's another 10. So I just wanted to confirm that it's now dropping by a total of 30. And it looks like the restoration in the following year is not happening as it was projected in the previous month. So one, if you could just confirm that I've got that right. And second, what does that mean in terms of fiscal 27 not having as many operators as I think last month we thought we would be needing?
Let me have Donna back up and I'll show you. And your numbers are pretty spot on. Go to slide 12. So yes, we went from 250 to 230, that's a 20. Now we're at 220. We feel like that's a realistic level of being able to operate all the bus service that we have today. And then there's an additional 10 added on top of that. Instead of 20, we feel like 10 more would fill out the rest of Reimagine Metro and the services needed when we fully expand and say that's it. That's after all the hydrogen buses are in service and we've done our due diligence on what buses will stay in service and so forth.
So last month we thought we would need 250 operators to operate Reimagine Metro. This month we think we can do it with 230.
We sat down and had a discussion on what is the maximum number of bus operators that we need in service each day, as well as the number of buses. And kind of going through doing the math, there's also a factor in there. There's people taking vacation, sick leave, and so forth of that nature. And we feel like at this level right now, 230 would be the optimal number that we can go with. It doesn't mean that at one day we might have 235 or 240, but on average throughout the year, it's going to be 230.
Okay. I mean, it's obviously good news from a budget perspective. If you can deliver the same service with 230 that we thought we needed 250 for, that's positive. It's just, it's a pretty big swing. So I wanted to make sure that was clear. So thank you.
Yeah.
To that real quick. Sorry. The 250 number was based on us doing 100% rollout of Reimagine Metro. We found that we're limited by the amount of service that we can put out on the streets by the number of miles that our maintenance can support. So right now, the maximum amount that they can support is what we have out on the streets, and even then, that's still a bit of a struggle. So the hope is that if we do the sales tax measure and we're able to build get a grant to build a secondary satellite location down in Watsonville, then we'll be able to meet the maintenance demands of a full build out of Reimagine Metro. At that point, you would see the operator count go up. But right now, for the level of service that we're putting out, this is the number of operators that we need.
So the full build out of Reimagine Metro would be really many years out. It would be after a sales tax and then bonding against those funds, building a facility.
Yeah, we're looking probably at a minimum of 3 years to be able to do the full amount. So right now we're at the max service that we're able to support through all departments.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have any written or oral communications or questions from the public? Thank you. If there are no other public comments, the public hearing is now closed and we will entertain a motion for its adoption.
I'd move approval. The 24th, the proposed budget.
Do we have a second? Budget. First one didn't require it. Thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Aye.
Director Dutra?
Aye.
Director Kalantari Johnson? Director Koenig? Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director Lind?
Aye.
Director Newsom? Director Orbach? Director Kiros Carter?
Aye.
Thank you, and the motion passes.
Thank you. It's time for our CEO report, Corey.
Okay. On Wednesday, May 21st, I attended the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Coastal Rail Trail Segment 7 Phase 2 at La Barranca Park. It was really well attended. It was a really good event. Leadership Santa Cruz County celebrated its graduation on June 18th, marking a year of accomplishments. I was proud to be a graduate of that part of Class 38, along with Danielle Gagola, our Chief Communications and Marketing Officer, and Juan Serrano, our Paratransit Supervisor. We're excited to share that our upcoming Class of 39 will include Christina Mialova, our Finance Deputy Director, Monique Delphine, our HR Deputy Director, and Greg Nolan, our Fleet Maintenance Supervisor. 2 weeks ago, we had the opportunity to tour the new PAC station that's currently under construction. Right now, currently it's just concrete and metal studs, but it gave us an idea of what it's going to look and feel like when it's fully completed. Really excited about that being finished and being able to move in there and move all of our buses into that transit center there. About 15 minutes ago, we found out officially that our county was awarded $128.7 million from the SB1 Solutions to Congested Corridors discretionary grant. $93.6 million of that will go to RTC to complete Highway 1 and the Coastal Rail Trail project. $13.8 million to the county for Soquel Drive improvements, and $13.8 million to Metro for our Rapid Corridors project. So really exciting. Metro summer service began last Thursday on June 19th. It includes Route 1 and 2 serving Watsonville to Santa Cruz will now run every 20 minutes for most of the daytime and evening, every 60 minutes early AM and late PM. Route 3 detour to the Murray Street Bridge closure. Routes 18 and 19 to run at 30-minute peak service. A new route variants of 18B and 19B to provide additional service to the base of campus. Construction of the mobile fueling station is almost complete. We were able to begin fueling. We fueled 12 buses. The last piece that we need is a silencer to quiet down that fueler. Right now, the projection is that it will be August that we'll get that installed. We are hearing from neighbors. We're aware of it, and we're trying to mitigate the noise as much as we possibly can. We are learning a lot every time we fuel it. I get to see it from my window. Fuel cell bus training for our mechanics is underway with additional sessions scheduled this week. We're rotating team members through these sessions to ensure broad participation. Training for supervisors, dispatchers, fleet staff, vehicle service workers, and first responders on the temporary fueler emergency action plan has been successfully completed. Law enforcement training is scheduled for August, and driver certification for the fuel cell buses has begun. On June 29th, SMART and Metro will co-host a senior celebration dinner at Freedom VFW Hall from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. to honor seniors in our community. Free rides will be available from the Riverfront Street Transit Center, Watsonville Transit Center, and Capitola Mall. Metro will be participating in the Scotts Valley 4th of July Parade, where I will have the opportunity to serve as one of the judges. Metro will also have a presence at parades in both Watsonville and Aptos. On July 18th, Metro will be participating in the Midtown Block Party, displaying a bus and hosting a booth. Metro will be participating in Family Fun Day on July 19th at Sky Park in Scotts Valley from 10 to 3. Metro has also secured a weekly booth at the Watsonville Farmers Market throughout the summer. And mark your calendars on this one. The bus rodeo and picnic is scheduled for Saturday, October 18th. We're going to do it this year because we are running out of room at JKS with the fuelers. We're going to move it down to Watsonville. It'll be at our Beach Street lot there in Watsonville, and there'll be more details to come as we get closer. So please consider volunteering as a judge or an announcer at that. We'd love to have every board member attend. Since May 16th board meeting, we've welcomed 2 new team members, 1 buyer and 1 mechanic 1. And that's the end of my report.
Are there any questions for Corey?
Thank you. So it is really exciting that we won this Cycle 4 grant, both to do phase 3 of the Highway 1 project that includes the auxiliary lanes and bus on shoulder sections. I'm looking at the detail here of the local match, construction local match versus the SB1 funds that we're getting. So as you mentioned, $13.8 million for rapid bus infrastructure, and there's a $10 million construction local match. I'm just curious if you know where that's supposed to come from, if it's coming from out of the RTC's budget. I presume it's not. I haven't seen it anywhere in our budget. So,
To be quite honest, I don't know where that match is coming from. It's a great question. I will find out.
All right, thanks.
Do we have any public comment? Any online? Our next board meeting will be held on Friday, August 22nd, 2025 at 9 a.m. at the Watsonville City Council Chambers, 275 Main Street, Watsonville. Thank you for your attendance, and this meeting is adjourned.